Good evening and welcome to the Premier League predictions for week number 6 here on the Commentary Hub. I'm Russ Vernon representing the Commentary Hub again this week, coming back to the usual side of representing the Commentary Hub. And just before I bring on our special guest for this week's predictions alongside me, I'm just going to run you through how I got on against Mike last week. Mike representing the Commentary Hub, myself coming on as a guest. So the scores are just going to be on the screen right now. So there we go. I'll introduce our guest in a moment. So as you can see, Mike got 7 points with a 1 point for Brentford winning at Wolves, Arsenal winning at Burnley, also West Ham losing to Manchester United, Tottenham losing to Chelsea, and he got 3 points for the win which Liverpool won 3-0 against Crystal Palace last week. For myself, I got 1 point for the Brentford win against Wolves, 3 points for the correct score for Arsenal in their 1-0 win over Burnley. I put 2-0 for Liverpool, it was 3, so 1 point for that one. Then I got another 3 points for the Manchester United game, which they won against West Ham by 2 goals to 1, which I predicted correct, which I got 8 points. Now, without further ado, let me welcome my special guest this week. He's none other than football journalist and good friend of mine, Samuel Wright. And how are you doing, Sam? You okay?
Hello, Ross. Yep, thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, and I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you?
All good, mate. Thank you. So I've explained all the rules before we actually went through and did the introduction off air. So just so you know, Sam, with the pointing system. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go through the scores, and we'll start off, Sam, with the lunchtime kickoff tomorrow, which is Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Manchester City. Chelsea looking really, really strong this season, especially after adding Romelu Lukaku to their ranks. How do you see them going up against Manchester City? Do you think Manchester City will have a chance to beat Chelsea in this one, or do you reckon Chelsea will be too strong still this weekend?
Very good game to start the weekend, first and foremost. Obviously, this was the Champions League final, just over 3 months ago. So, two very strong teams. I think Chelsea this season for me are really looking the real deal. I watched them last week against Spurs. I thought they were fantastic. I watched them away at Arsenal at the start of the season. Again, they were fantastic. Thomas Tuchel's done a fantastic job there. That's it. The addition of Lukaku's just made them even stronger. Defensively, they're solid. To be honest with you, I think Man City, they will have a good season, no doubt about that. Obviously, they're a good team. But I'm going to say Chelsea to win this 1-0. I think it'll be a tight game, not much between them, but I'm going to go 1-0 Chelsea.
Yes, I think it's going to be a tight game as well this month. And I think both teams will score in this game. And I think Chelsea will edge it 2-1. I think, like we mentioned, Chelsea got a bit stronger now with Lukaku and look very, very solid under Thomas Tuchel. And ever since he came in, going back to last season as well in charge. But I think Chelsea will be too strong in the end. Next up then, Sam, is another Manchester team in action. Is the Red Half of Manchester. Manchester United are taking on Aston Villa at lunchtime on Saturday. 12:30 kickoff is due to police advice for that one. Aston Villa doing fairly well in the league. Did won last time out against Everton. Everton's first defeat of the season was against Aston Villa last week, again, which JB John Stuttard brought to our listeners here on the Commentary Hub last week. How do you see this one going, Sam? Do you reckon Villa could cause an upset, or do you think with Ronaldo rested fully from midweek, Manchester United will get back to winning ways after losing to West Ham in the Cup in midweek?
Going to be another good game. Aston Villa, I do think, are a talented team. They have, of course, lost Jack Grealish in the summer, which was a big blow, regardless of how many good players they also signed. This will be a good game. I'm going to go 2-1 to Manchester United. I just think they're going to have a little bit too much Villa on the day, but I do think it'll be close. And I'm also going to say Cristiano Ronaldo to probably score again because, of course, even at his age, he's still going to score many goals this season. He's proven already. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Manchester United, just like it was at the very start of the year at Old Trafford.
Yes, I think it's going to be a tight game as well, Sam. But I think it's going to be 1-0 to Manchester United, and I think Cristiano Ronaldo will be the man who will get that goal against Aston Villa. But I think it'll be probably a late goal. I think Villa will hold out resolutely for the majority of the game, but then I think the quality of Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, and Cristiano Ronaldo will come through in the end, and Manchester United will go on to win that game. Next up is Everton against Norwich, and Norwich have not really started well this season. Everton, mixed bag of results, lost last time out, as did Norwich lose last time out against Watford. How do you see this one going? Do you think Everton will get back to winning ways and Norwich will still struggle, Sam? Or do you reckon Norwich may finally get the first win here if they play similar to what Aston Villa did against Everton from last week's game?
I can only see an Everton win here. I mean, with all due respect to Norwich, I just don't see where the wins are going to come from. They could really struggle this season. Norwich, I think they're very similar to what they were 2 seasons ago when they were relegated from the Premier League. So Everton have started well. I mean, obviously they lost to Villa 3-0 last week, disappointing, of course. But I think Everton, I'm going to go for a comfortable 2-0 Everton win in this one. I can't see any other result.
I can see Everton getting a win in this one as well. So I'm going for a 3-0 Everton win. I think Everton will be too strong for Norwich in the end. And if Dominic Calvert-Lewin's back after injury, not seeing the team news for Everton as of yet, but if he's back, I think he'll probably get back amongst the goals. I think with Charlison may get back amongst the goals as well for Everton. So I think Everton will bounce back from their bad day at the office last week at Villa Park against Everton. Leeds going to next up is Leeds against West Ham, and Leeds going to this back of a battling draw against Newcastle United, a game really which Leeds should have won, Firpo firing over the bar towards the end of the first half with the scores of 1-1, and then chances in second half come very limited in their. Leeds heading to this one on the back of the win in midweek, albeit on penalties away at Fulham after a 0-0 draw in which Joe Gallagher and Stuart McKinstry, two of the youngsters, played a part and scored the penalties for Leeds against Fulham in midweek. West Ham doing fairly well. Obviously lost in the league to Manchester United last week, but beat them in the cup in midweek. Antonio back after suspension and being rested as well, and it'll be Leeds with 7 first-team players injured or doubts for this game. With Llorente, Cock and Bamford confirmed to be out, and then there's Strike suspended as well. So there's 4 out, and then we've got Harrison, Rafinha and Ayling as injury doubts. So depleted Leeds United squad going up against West Ham in this one. Sam, West Ham with Antonio fresh after suspension and being rested in midweek, not being arrested in midweek, as I was about to say. Do you think Leeds could get a positive result here if they play well, and especially with the home form and the home crowd behind them? Obviously, Leeds scored a draw against Everton at Ellen Road in the Premier League this season, and done well at Ellen Road in the Premier League this season, just away from home where they've struggled. Do you think the Ellen Road crowd can inspire Leeds on to get something from this game, Sam, for you?
It's going to be interesting. Obviously, West Ham, like I say, very good season last season, and they started this season okay as well. Like you said, the Ellen Road crowd is what could make the difference, especially with Leeds' injuries going into this game. I'm going to say an entertaining 2-2 draw, very similar to the Everton game Leeds had a few weeks ago. I think that West Ham are a team who they are good going forward, but I do still think they're quite vulnerable at the back. Leeds are yet to win, of course. I don't see that changing here, but I'm going to say a pretty entertaining 2-2 draw, very similar to the Everton game I'm backing. So, yeah, I think this will be a good one.
I'm thinking we could. a lot of people don't expect us to win this one. A lot of people writing Leeds off in this one. I think, obviously, as people can see from behind me, I'm Leeds United fan with things up on my wall and wearing a Leeds United shirt doing this evening. I think Leeds will surprise the odds and upset the apple cart, if you like, and nick a win. Yes, I've mentioned a few players out, including Patrick Bamford, who was the leading goal scorer last season in the Premier League for Leeds United, and Leeds United's leading goal scorer in all competitions as well, with 17 goals in the Premier League, and I think he got a few more. Rafinha with a few assists. He's an injury doubt. I think Leeds could surprise the apple cart, upset the apple cart as well, and surprise the bum makers, and surprise a lot of people in this one. I'm always going to back my boys to win, which I always do every single week. I'm going for a 2-1 Leeds win. I think Leeds will just nick it. I think if we can stop Antonio and stop Declan Rice from playing, obviously, I know they've got other decent players who can create things for them, but I think those two are the main ones for West Ham who really create things. If we can stop those and have his own creative sparks, and with the likes of Dan James, maybe Rafinha if he plays, or Somerville, or whether he has put out on the right hand side, and whether he puts up front, whether it be Roberts or Rodrigo, can have a bit of spark in front of goal. I think Leeds could win this. I'm going for a 2-1 Leeds win. Next up is at the King Power Stadium, Leicester City against Burnley. So, and just to be warned, Sam, when you do make this score here, just be warned, we will have a listener listening into this, whether he's listening live or on when it goes out a bit later on, so people can listen back to it if you miss it live. Our good friend JB of John Stuttard, who did the West commentary for West Ham's game against Manchester United in midweek. He's a resident Burnley fan, so just be warned. Just if we go against him, he may not like you, but just he's only been a banter, Sam, as everyone guesses in the footballing world. And I just see this one going Leicester against Burnley. Leicester doing fairly well. Burnley, mixed season for them. I just see this one going for Burnley. Do you reckon? And Leicester, do you think Burnley will get a win here, or do you think Leicester will be too strong for Burnley in the end, Sam, for you?
It's an interesting game, so I don't think Leicester have actually started as well as what they have done in the last couple of seasons. If anything, they're struggling a little bit. But with Burnley, they're always that team, Burnley, who obviously everyone kind of writes off a little bit at the start of the season due to their lack of transfers that they usually do. But to be fair to Sean Dyche's done a brilliant job there. Recently signed a new deal as well, I believe. So it's going to be an interesting game. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Leicester win. I think with it being at the King Power, I just think Leicester will have enough. I don't think it'll be easy, and I do think Burnley will play well, but I'm just going to go for an edgy Leicester win.
I'm going the opposite way, Sam. I think it'll be a 2-1 Burnley. I think if Burnley get an early goal in this one, I think the fans of Leicester will get on the team's back, which may play into Burnley's hands a little bit. Burnley go 2 up and then Leicester pull one back later on if Burnley decide to sit deep on that. But I know if Burnley score, they do tend to not keep hold of Leeds very well. That's what my friend JB has been telling me. But I think Burnley will get to win here. I'm going for a 2-1 away winning this one. Salmon should be an entertaining game. Next up is a clash at Vicarage Road where Watford take on Newcastle. Watford start off fairly slowly. Newcastle are always a bit of up and down, really good battling draw against Leeds last time out in the Premier League for Steve Bruce's side, and Watford normally fairly good at home, but not really started well at home yet this season. How do you see this one going, Sam, for you, mate? Do you reckon Newcastle will get a win here, or do you reckon Watford will get to win and pile even more pressure on what's already on Steve Bruce?
I'd say this is another interesting game, really. I mean, obviously, Watford's Vicarage Road start hasn't really been too bad at all. As for Newcastle, not been the best start, but they are playing okay in some games, though. I thought they were all right against Leeds last week as well. So, an interesting one ahead here. I'm going to go 2-1 Watford. Sorry, with it being at Vicarage Road, I think that will give them a little bit of an advantage. So, yeah, I'm going for a few 2-1 home wins this weekend, but I'm going to say Watford 2-1. I think with Vicarage Road home advantage, it'll just get them over the line. If Watford want to do anything this season as well, I think their home form's going to be massive. Newcastle, I don't think they'll go down or be that much in the battle, Newcastle, but I think they'll have another fairly mediocre season. But yeah, I'm going to go Watford, an edgy 2-1 win.
I'm going for a 2-0 Watford win. I think no, Watford will do fairly, really, really well in this one, and I can see them keeping a clean sheet as long as they keep, say, maximum quiet. And so I think Watford will win this against Newcastle with a 2-0 scoreline. Next up, I'm going to go first, and it's the game at the Brentford Community Stadium, and Brentford do fairly well at home in the whether it be the Championship, and they don't start off well at home in the Premier League as well, up against Liverpool, who were a bit of it a miss really up near the top of the table at the moment though I think Brentford with their own form and where they like to play at home and with the home crowd behind them, I think they'll be I think they may just edge this one against Liverpool. It'll be a tight game, but I'm going for a 1-0 Brentford win with Ivan Toney to score, which will be a surprise for the apple cart as well, which is, like I said, for the Leeds West Ham. But I think Brentford can just edge it here for me. So I do see Brentford against Liverpool going there, especially with Brentford's own form, as I mentioned.
It's going to be a good game, to be honest. This is the game I'm most excited for this weekend. Because to be fair to Brentford, they've taken to Premier League football very well. Watched them against Arsenal, brilliant on the opening day. Very good at Wolves last week in that 2-0 win as well. I think Brentford have done well so far. I'm going to say this Liverpool, though, are a very strong team. I will add that as well. And I do think that they look back to their best. Obviously, last season had a lot of injuries, and I think they really missed the crowd. I'm going to say 2-1 Liverpool. I think it's going to be a very good game. I'm going for a 2-1 away win this time. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game, and I think Brentford will push them all the way, but I think they'll score late, and I think Liverpool, like I said, they're playing with a lot of freedom at the moment, so as I think Brentford will give it a good go. I see Brentford taking the lead, but I think Liverpool will win it with 2 late goals as Brentford tire, but yeah, this is going to be a very good game, I think. I can't wait for it.
Yes, I can't wait to follow it on the way back, as I'm going to be at Ellen Road tomorrow for Leeds against West Ham. Looking forward to being back at Ellen Road for the first time since last time I went was the game against Everton, due to not being able to make the other matches we've played at Ellen Road this season. Next up is a 2 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League on Sunday. Southampton against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Wolves dumped out of the cup in midweek. Southampton progressed in the cup, both on penalties, so both probably a little bit tired after having to go to penalties from the cup matches, respectively, in midweek. Both teams having a fairly mixed start, especially Southampton having a mixed start in the league this season, especially with that 0-0 draw against Manchester City last time out. Wolves struggling in the league so far this season. How do you see this one going, Sam Field, my friend?
This is going to be an interesting game as well. I really thought Southampton were going to have a poor season, obviously losing Danny Ings, and they were terrible second half of last season, especially after that 9-0 loss against Man United at Old Trafford. They've done okay, to be fair to them. I don't think Armstrong's really hit the ground running yet at the striker, but they've done okay, though. I mean, they've showed a lot of fight, obviously, and I think they're playing okay. Wolves, I think Wolves, they're kind of losing that momentum now. They've had a good few years, Wolves, obviously. I think that obviously losing Nuno in the summer, bit of a new squad at the moment. Obviously, Raul Jimenez isn't quite the player he was, understandably so, after his horrendous injury last year. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with an edgy 1-0 to Wolves. I've just got a feeling Wolves are just due that little win, and I do think that I'm going to say 1-0 to Wolves with a late goal. I don't think it'll be a great game, but I think one team's going to edge it, and I'm going to choose Wolves.
I'm going for a 2-0 Southampton win. I think Southampton will put Wolves not really started yet under Bruno Lage in the league, still trying to find the feet, still trying to work out, find the formation that is playing and play into that. But I think Southampton may win this by 2-0. Next up is the North London derby, and form goes out to window in derby matches, as everyone all already knows, and it's going to be a very good game, this one, Arsenal against Tottenham. I know that you follow and support Arsenal, Sam, from one of our previous chats, which we had over on your YouTube channel, which you can go and find out. I'll let you mention that channel a bit later on, Sam. But I just see this one going, Sam. North London derby. Do you think your boys will get the win? Obviously, back won back-to-back matches against Burnley and Norwich, and then won again in midweek against AFC Wimbledon. Do you think your boys will get the win here, Sam, or do you reckon it may be a draw, or do you reckon them from London will get the win? Also, that should be Tottenham. Or do you reckon Tottenham will get the win? Sam, I don't say them because I know you don't like them. Also, fans don't like them.
I mean, to be honest with you, it's a weird one. Obviously, yes, I am an Arsenal fan, and the interview I did with Russ was on STW Sports. So please feel free to go check that out, where I do plenty of football content, mainly interviews and a few reviews of a weekend as well. It's gonna be an interesting derby because neither team's really at their best. Tottenham did start the season well with 3-1-0 wins, but obviously they lost. They then lost two games in a row, both 3-0. So one of them was Crystal Palace. So. And Arsenal, obviously, yes, we've had 2-1-0 wins against Norwich and Burnley, but not the most convincing. But the win's a win. At the end of the day, it's 6 points, it's 2 wins in a row. So it's something to build on. I'm going to say this is going to be a 1-1 draw. I don't see either team winning it. I don't think any team's going to have a great season. But if I'm to predict, I'm going to go with a solid 1-1 draw. That's, about what I can say. I don't see it being a classic, but it's a North London derby. Like I say, form goes out the window. I do think there'll be a lot of spirit on show, as there always is in this sort of game. And the North London derby, when it's great, is one of the best games in the country. But this time round, I just think with the form both teams are in, I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to sit on the fence.
I'm sitting on the fence as well here, Sam. And I think it's going to be a Desmond. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. I think Arsenal may go in the lead. Tottenham will equalise. Tottenham may go back. Then Tottenham may get the lead, and I think Arsenal will score later on to equalise. And I think he'll finish as a Desmond in this one. And then the final game of the weekend is another derby game where form is out of the window. Crystal Palace against Brighton and Hove Albion. I know everyone calls this a derby game, especially both of those down near the. But I know both they don't like each other, those two clubs. So Sam, this game for you. How do you see this one going, mate? Do you reckon there'll be a one team winning it, or do you reckon there'll be another draw and you're going to sit on the fence again, Sam, do you reckon?
Another one with Palace, like I said about Southampton, they were another team I really backed to struggle this season, Palace. And to be fair to Patrick Vieira, he's done a pretty good job so far. Yeah, of course, they lost to Liverpool last week quite convincingly, but Liverpool are in great form right now. And of course, they lost convincingly to Chelsea, but that's two of the best teams in the country, so there's no shame in that. And obviously, they beat Tottenham 3-0, where they were very impressive. Brighton, on the other hand, I think they've had a very good start, Brighton. I mean, they're actually in the top 4, which is insane, to be honest. So they've done brilliantly. Like you say, I might have to sit on the fence in this one, but you know what? I'm going to say Brighton to continue their great form. I'm going to say 3-1 to Brighton. I think it's going to be a very interesting game, and I'm going to say Brighton will probably be 1-1 till about 75 minutes, and Brighton will do it. I think they've got a lot of momentum under Graham Potter right now, and I'm going to say it's going to be 3-1 to Brighton at Selhurst Park.
I think it's going to be Brighton win as well, Sam. But I'm going for a 2-1 win for Brighton in this game. I think Brighton will, like you say, will edge it, and it'll be 1-1 for large periods in the game. But I think Brighton will edge it towards then. I'm going for a 2-1 win for Brighton in this one, Sam. So that comes the end of the fixtures. So I'll just get those up on the screen for the viewers to take a look at the scores that we have gone for this week, Sam, between ourselves, and see who comes out on top. As you can see, all the scores on the screen there. Me and Sam both going for an home win in Chelsea against Man City, Man United against Aston Villa, Everton against Norwich. I'm edging Leeds to win against West Ham, while Sam is going for a Desmond. I've gone for a Burnley win against Leicester, where Sam goes for a Leicester win. We've both gone for a Watford win. Sam's gone for a Liverpool win, whereas I've gone for a Brentford win. Sam's gone for a Wolves win, I've gone for a Southampton win. We've both gone a draw between Arsenal and Tottenham. Desmond for me, 1-1 for Sam. And we've both gone for a Brighton win there, which you can see on, which you've just seen on the screen there. And just before we do wrap up, Sam, and do let you go, just you've got your own YouTube channel, which you mentioned there, and if you just want to tell people a bit more about your own YouTube channel, and also, Sam, just want to just give us a few minutes thoughts on the Arsenal season so far, Sam, to date, including that win against AFC Wimbledon in midweek for you.
Yeah, so starting with the YouTube channel, I created it in April 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. It's been a lot of different content on there, really, and I've managed to develop the channel quite well throughout. Mainly now focused on interviews with football fans. I mean, obviously, I do like to go into other sports as well, which is why the channel is called STW Sports. But yeah, it's a channel that obviously, interviews are my main priority. I do a footballing weekend review, which takes place every Monday. It's really good fun. And I mean, if you're ever up for being interviewed on the channel, please get in touch with me. My Twitter handle is SamSportsTalk95, capital letters at the start of each word. So yeah, I think if you do want an interview on the channel, please do get to interview all sorts of fans. Everyone is welcome. As for the Arsenal season so far, I think it's not been great, let's be honest. The start of the season was terrible. The Brentford game, same old story, really. I had a bad feeling about that game the entire week. Every time we come up against a team who's up for the fight, newly promoted and hungry for a win, we crumbled under the pressure. And to be honest, Brentford's atmosphere, obviously, it was their first time playing in front of a full crowd at their new stadium, despite it opening a year ago. I never felt confident in Brentford, completely proved why I never felt confident. They were brilliant and Arsenal were poor. Chelsea, it should have been more than 2-0. If it wasn't for Burnley in the second half, it would have been. We were completely dominated, outplayed, and it really showed the gulf in class between the two teams. And Man City, I mean, being humiliated by Man City every year is something you've become used to as an Arsenal fan, unfortunately. Miles above us. Yeah, the red card by Granit Xhaka certainly didn't help, but no, it was. We're just way below. Like I said about Chelsea, the golfing class between Arsenal and Man City was certainly on show. And I was fearing for Mikel Arteta after that game. I really thought he could lose his job. I think the performance in general in that game was just pretty embarrassing. The defending on show was just, it was very embarrassing to watch. It wouldn't have looked out of place in the National League. So, yeah, it was very bad. And obviously Norwich, we needed to win that game and we did. It wasn't convincing, but look, we got there in the end. 3 points is 3 points in this league. It doesn't matter how you win them. Yeah, I was obviously delighted. I was obviously delighted with that win. And then Burnley, again, I mean, it was another not convincing win, but Turf Moor's not an easy place to go, and we need to remember that. And obviously, Martin Odegaard, who we did re-sign, we signed him permanently, I should say, in the summer after he spent the second half of last season on loan at us. I think it was a good free kick from Odegaard, and it's a good result for us. But look, I think 1-0 at Norwich against Norwich and Burnley aren't the best, but look, they're wins, and that's all I care about. And obviously, Tottenham, if we can beat Tottenham, 9 points from the last three games, that's a huge step in the right direction. I'm not expecting big things from Arsenal this season. I probably think we're going to finish 7th at the very highest, if I'm being honest. But, it's going to be, see if Mikel Arteta can last the season will be interesting. But yeah, I'm going to say, if I have to predict where we're going to finish right now, I'm going to say 9th. I think it's going to be another difficult season for us in terms of I just where the consistency is going to come from. I think we've got a lot of players we need to maybe get rid of or just bring some new ones in. So yeah, it's going to be a big season for Arsenal, really, like every season is. But not being in Europe certainly feels weird. It's never happened in my lifetime. So seeing the European midweek fixtures and not having Arsenal's name in the Champions League or Europa League is certainly weird at the moment. But we just got to focus on the league this year and obviously the Carabao Cup as well, which we do take on Leeds United in the next round, Russ, which will be an interesting one, certainly. But, that's all we got to do this is focus on a cup competition and make the most of our league form. But again, I'm not really expecting big things in this current Arsenal squad. It's got a long way to go till it's up there competing again.
Yes, and just one quick final one from me, Sam, just before we do wrap up and do let you know. Links to all Sam's channel, to his YouTube channel and to his Twitter will be in the description on the Commentary Hub 2's page and also on the Commentary Hub's page for people wanting to listen to follow that, and we'll give this a retweet and mention him in the tweet for coming on as well, so you can give him a follow if you're watching this across on Twitter. Just a one final one from me then, Sam, just before I do let you go. On Mikel Arteta, obviously, you just mentioned there, he's been under a bit of pressure recently, especially after the start. I know you took on Chelsea and Manchester City early on in the Premier League. If you were to lose against Tottenham and then were to lose next week and then the week after, and then they say we'll give you the cup game against Leeds, and then you were to go out in the cup against Leeds as well, and then you've not got European football as you've already touched upon. You've gone out to the Carabao Cup, and then you've only got the FA Cup to play for. Would you want to see Arteta gone if you don't pick up any wins in these next couple of few matches, starting with the match on Sunday against Tottenham?
To be honest, it's an interesting one in terms of Arteta. I mean, obviously, it was always a risk giving him the job in the first place. I mean, it's hard to believe Arteta's been at us nearly 2 years now. I mean, he joined us in December 2019 and we're now in September 2021. I think that, look, if we lose to Tottenham, it depends how we lose to Tottenham. If it's an embarrassing defeat and we show no fight, then that might be a sign that the writing's on the wall for him. The issue Arsenal have got right now, in my opinion, is who are we going to get who is a great manager? I don't really see many managers, even, Arsenal Football Club are, of course, a big club, but I think how many managers are going to look at us right now and say, I want to take on that project? It's going to be difficult. And obviously, we brought Arteta in to basically learn on the job. I mean, has it worked out? I mean, we've won the FA Cup, I guess, which is something, but overall, 2 8th place finishes. It's not really been the best. And obviously, his signings have been pretty poor overall as well, I must say. The recruitment at the club in the last few years has, just been below par, really, for where Arsenal want to be. But I'm going to say Arteta, he is on borrowed time right now. If we lose a couple more games and we stay down in that bottom half, I do think he'll go. But it's difficult to see who we're going to bring in, really. So I'd probably try and give him till Christmas, but it just depends on how results go. A couple more defeats. If we lose the next 2-3 games, as you say, and then to Leeds in the cup, then it's very hard to see him keeping his job beyond that, to be honest. And we just got to see what we can do. But unless we've got a replacement lined up, then I think we've got to have someone lined up if we were to sack him. But I never like to see managers sacked, but sometimes it is the right thing to do. But like I say, it's hard to believe it's been 2 years under Arteta already, really. It's been a bit of a wild journey, but we'll have to see if Arteta is the right man to get us back to where we need to be. So far, he hasn't done great, admittedly. I don't know how to really rank his performance as a manager at Arsenal. It's been a bit of a mixed time, but overall, I think a couple more defeats, then, I do think, especially coming up, I do think he'll be in big trouble. But we'll have to see. And I mean, whoever the next manager is, it'd have to be a good appointment as well. As the same thing will keep happening over and over again.
Yes, so a very big thank you to Sam for coming on, and just a big thank you to Sam for coming on the Premier League predictions this week here on the Commentary Hub, also on JB Sports, JDAC Football, and Storm FM as well, our broadcast partners. And our streaming partner for the season is, of course, the brilliant Melon as well. So from myself and from Sam, thank you very much for listening this week. And once again, thanks for coming on, Sam, and we'll hope to see you again very, very soon on the channel. And good luck with your channel as well, Sam, moving forward, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me on. A pleasure.